Hello guys, welcome to Global Happenings. Today we have a trending news here for you. And the headline of the news reads, US exposes Buhari's plan to give $100 million Abacha's loot to a northern governor who helped Abacha in looting. Alright, but before we continue with details of the news and further analysis, we would like to encourage you to please subscribe to the channel by clicking on the red subscribe button and also on the bell icon so that you can get notification anytime we publish videos on YouTube. Alright, let's look at the news in detail. The United States is opposing an alleged plan by the federal government to give $100 million out the recovered Sani Abacha's loot to KB State Governor Atiku Magudu. Aside these, the US is also asking Nigerians to help recover alleged stolen funds traced to Magudu, the chairman of the All Progressive Congress APC Governors Forum. Bloomberg reports that there has been commitment by Nigeria to transfer the fund to the governor, whom the US Department of Justice says was involved in corruption with Abacha. The US and Nigeria recently agreed on the repatriation of over $308 million to the African nation. The US Department of Justice believes Nigeria is blocking US effort to recover alleged laundered money traced to Magudu. The department, in a statement on February 3rd, disclosed that Magudu was part of Abacha's network that embezzled, misappropriated, and extorted billions from the government of Nigeria. But the Buhari administration allegedly insisted that an existing 17-year-old agreement entitles Magudu to a fraction of the repatriated funds. This argument was contained in recent filing from the District Court for the District of Columbia in Washington. It recalled that in 2018, the US, following a Nigerian government request in 2012, initiated a forfeiture action including 4 investment portfolios held in London in trust for Magudu and his family. Now, the Buhari's government says it cannot assist because it is legally bound by a settlement Magudu reached with the Olusegun Obasanjo administration in 2003, according to the court filings. Under the terms approved by the UK court, Magudu returned $163 million of alleged laundered money to the Nigerian government, which then dropped all outstanding civil and criminal claims against him. This information was contained in a December 23, 2019 memorandum opinion by District Judge John D. Batts in Washington, D.C. This case illustrated how complex and contentious repatriating stolen assets to Nigeria can be, said Matthew Page, an associate fellow at London-based Chatham House. The former Nigerian expert for U.S. intelligence agency added that instead of welcoming U.S. effort, Nigeria's lawyers appeared to be supporting the interests of one of the country's most powerful families. Successive Nigerian governments have so far repatriated more than $2 billion out of the $5 billion Transparency International estimated was that Abacha had stole. Wow, and this is really a serious issue because I did not believe that this man, I'm talking about the governor of KB State, was involved in this kind of, nefarious attitude, which unfortunately today he's also featuring. He's also featuring in leading Nigeria. You see why corruption cannot stop? You see visible reasons why corruption cannot stop. Now, this man had already been involved in looting in the days of, Sani Abacha. According to the information prescribed here, shows that he had been involved. He was one of the networks Abacha used in siphoning money from Nigerian treasury And despite the fact that all of this it was in place, the present day government, which its key responsibility and promise to Nigeria was to combat any issue of corruption, whether it is in the now or was in the past. But unfortunately, right in our very eyes, the same Magudu who was involved in such terrible fraudulent activity was being allowed to feature as a governor, for Kebbi State. Now, if all of this is happening, how then can we begin to look at people and think that we can eradicate corruption? It's not possible. Corruption cannot be eradicated. Why? Because virtually everybody's hands have been stained. Imagine if there's any corrupt practices going on in Kebbi State. Would he have the mouth to say anything? Of course, no. Why? Because his hand already been stained. And guess what? The US is ready to, lynch this guy. That's, in other words, what I mean by lynching. They are ready to investigate him and open up on some of those things that they had stolen and some of the things that he did when he was with Abacha. But according to their information, they said that the Nigerian government is preventing such from occurring. And now we are about, though it's claimed to be alleged, that the current administration is about to give him about 100 million naira from the $308 million loot of Abacha returned back to Nigeria. Don't forget, if we go through our feed, you will see we did something on that when these guys EFCC were called upon to do the signing and everything, for US to send back about $308 million back to Nigeria. But even before they promised to send the money, they had already informed Nigeria that they will be monitoring how that money is spent, and that if that money is not spent wisely, they would demand for a return of that sum of money. You can now see that even another country is trying to help Nigeria, a sovereign state like Nigeria. Another country is trying to help us to fight corruption. Is it not amazing that another country is trying to help us fight corruption? Well, we have like 2 or 3 agencies that have been charged with the responsibility of fighting corruption. I believe that when maybe the United States of America put a particular allegation on someone and said this person is involved in looting or was involved in looting, it's the responsibility of the Independent Corrupt Practices of Commission or the EFCC, the Anti-Graft Commission, EFCC, Economic and Financial Crime Commission, to take off such allegation, go into deeper investigation, unveil the secret, and then prosecute the person as expected. But instead, when the money came, said there was a kind of agreement they entered into that about $100 million will be given to the governor of Kebbi State. You now see that the issue of saying let's fight corruption is done partly. It's partially done. It is not done holistically. It's not done as we expect it to be. That's why when I hear the issue of running around Yahoo boys and running about cheap guys who are stealing cheap things, it really vexes me, because right now corruption is not just the issue of saying it's an individual, it's a system. Whenever you get into the system governance, whenever you think of entering into governance, the first thing that hits your mind is to see how you can also take a chunk of the national cake, which was meant for the development of the country. But people, when they get into the position of leadership, the first thing that hits their mind is for them to steal. Why? Because their predecessors did that and nobody questioned them, nobody prosecuted them, nobody did anything against them. So they queue up behind these guys and do same. So the issue of saying we are fighting corruption is just storytelling. It's called tales by moonlight. It can never be a reality. It can't be a reality. Why? Because, hey, the government says they are fighting it, but hey, we've just seen what has happened. US said they wanted to help Nigeria to fight, to unveil everything about this man. They already know that he was involved in corrupt practices. It's now the place of Nigerian government to go in and investigate this guy And as they investigate him, they now come and say, okay, Oga, because you have been involved, this is what and this is what, you must be prosecuted. But hey, they're exempting him. Okay, even if peradventure maybe the law in Nigeria is exempting governors from being, interrogated when they are in office. All right, but why should you now, the looted funds that have been refunded back to you, why should you be giving it to that same person who was involved in the looting of Nigerian treasury in the days of Abacha? Really, really amazing. I think this is the point where we need to sit back and begin to think if truly this government is doing what it has promised Nigerians already. We have one of the things that I had considered as the key, the high note of this government was corruption. And to some extent, personally, going by a lot of publications by EFCC and what we have seen fairly recently, the likes of Ojuzo Kalu, the likes of Joshua Dari being thrown into prison, it was hopeful that they have done something tangible. But from what we are hearing now, it therefore means that this thing, they are not doing it holistically. They are, it's selective judgment, selective indictment, selective prosecution is what we are seeing right now. And it's obviously not all right, because if you want to prosecute offenders, you want to prosecute corrupt practitioners, looters, it shouldn't just be just few persons. It should be a totality of people. Anyone who had been involved in it, you prosecute the person openly. Let everybody know that this person was involved, not to be playing games with it. It's really vexing. All right, that's where we're going to leave it. Go to our comment section.